Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, where we bring you the very best of what the New York theater scene has to offer. This week it's the French Revolution in Jill Santoriello's new musical, A Tale of Two Cities, which has taken up residence at the Al Hirschfeld Theater. Based on the classic novel by Charles Dickens, we'll go behind the scenes at this epic new retelling. But we start things off with a look at one of this season's most anticipated productions. It's the revival of Peter Shaffer's 1973 psychological drama, Equus, playing at the Broadhurst Theater. The show welcomes film star Daniel Radcliffe, who's making his Broadway debut as Alan Strang, the young stable boy who blinds 6 horses. Joining him is Tony Award winner Richard Griffiths as Dr. Martin Dysart, who takes on the boy's case. Now, Radcliffe and Griffiths co-starred in last year's critically acclaimed production of the play in London's West End. Under the direction of Thea Sharrock, Equus is playing a limited engagement until February 8th. We caught up with Radcliffe and company at the Equus opening night.
This is the most shocking case I ever tried.
Why?
Because most people are going to be disgusted by the whole thing, including doctors.
Why? What's he done?
He blinded 6 horses with a metal spike.
Well, I really didn't feel I wanted to do it because I was nervous that the techniques of psychiatry had changed, perhaps, and that I would be making a fool of myself if I was attacking aspects of psychiatry that are in fact no longer obtained. And then I thought again when David Pugh, who was a very, very good English impresario, called me and said, would I consider doing it again? And I thought about it. And I thought, well, all plays date in one sense or another. Why am I holding out? I'd like to see the play again. And I said yes. And then he rang me up on the telephone and said, I've been called by Daniel and his father, Daniel Radcliffe, asking whether he could be allowed to audition. And he did, and we held a secret audition because I didn't want the press to get hold of it or anything. And it was an extraordinary reading, not because it was perfect, it was by no means there, but what it was strikingly eager and committed and very exciting. And so I said yes. And you know, if he hadn't been good, because I said, you know, if he's never been on the stage before and it's not good, one could actually injure his career and the play. And I'm such a fan of his now. I think he's just a miraculous person to work with.
I think he's shown the world that he's not Harry Potter, he's Daniel Radcliffe, and he is a leading actor. He's not just a star. The journey he's come on in the 2 years between London and now is extraordinary, and I'm extremely proud of what he's doing on that stage.
Because you did it in London with Richard and Daniel, with a whole other London cast.
Yeah, just Richard and Daniel, and everybody else is new for this.
So was it like creating it from scratch with a new company? Completely. With a blueprint?
Yeah, exactly. And it was like we had a huge head start on ourselves, and the leading guys knew their lines, which is always helpful for a director. But it was fantastic to bring in 20 other new people to it so that they brought their own energy and a freshness to it, and we've retold the story in a new way. It's very, very different, I think, and it feels tighter and it feels very strong.
I love that she loves her son and she loves her husband and her life, and she's stuck in a very difficult situation with her beliefs that may have led to some of the son's confusion, but I think she wanted nothing but the best for her son. And that happens sometimes, you know. It's not out of her will, you know, she loved her son. That's the main thing I feel in the play.
Talk about working with your director, what it was like during the rehearsal process of working on the role of Dora.
She was great. You know, she had good ideas to help me kind of step by step guide me along the way, and we eventually got there. It took some time. It's a hard part, very hard part, but I think we eventually got there.
I love her because she's teaching me how to listen. This sounds a little arrogant, and I don't mean it to, but I've never played a supporting role before. And in doing so, I'm learning how to listen with my whole being. But to listen to Richard Griffiths is not like listening to anybody. It's like listening to heaven, because he's so completely present. And is playing top tennis at Wimbledon, do you know? And Dan is just an extraordinary young movie star who's surpassed even himself, I think, in his effort to be a legitimate, serious actor. The company's terrific. I couldn't be happier. It's all great.
How well did you know the play before getting involved?
I didn't know it well. It was sent to me. I never saw it before. I read it. I knew of it, of course, and all the lore and myth attached to it. But I read it and I thought, well, this is interesting. You know, particularly in a time where psychiatry is, shall we say, in the hot seat all the time. I thought that I can do something with this part, and I want to do it. And I'm so glad I did.
Do you dream often?
Yes. Do you?
Yes. Do you have a special dream?
No. Do you?
Yes. So what was your dream about last night?
I can't remember. What's yours about?
I said the truth.
That is the truth. What's yours about? The special one.
Carving up children.
He's such a troubled man, you know. I mean, playing the troubled people is always a lot more fun than playing those well-adjusted heroes. He's such a dark fellow, and he loves his son so much. So the conflict is so pronounced in the play for him, between his horror at what his son did and his love for him. So,
how well did you know the play before you started working on it?
I had read it. I had never seen a production. Yeah, I'd heard, of course, legendary things about, you know, Anthony Hopkins and Richard Burton, etc. But no, I wasn't that familiar with it.
So what was the rehearsal process like?
Thea is a real actor's director. She's very playful. She challenges you a lot. She investigates scenes. She'll do improv. And with Daniel and Richard, because they've done it before, they were re-examining the parts, sort of re-exploring them. And Thea was also re-examining the relationships in the play. So it was a lot of fun. Not a lot of crawling around on the floor, but a lot of intense psychological work.
I love Jill is someone who doesn't take anything in life too seriously, and she wants him to smile, she wants him to laugh, and she's incredibly open and thoughtful and a true kind spirit, and that's why she's so refreshing and fun to play. I think I want to bring a light, you know, to the stage when I can.
All of your scenes are with Daniel Radcliffe. What has it been like working with him in the rehearsal room and now on stage?
He puts me at ease. I was very nervous coming into this, you know, working with him and doing a show that had already been, you know, such well received in London, and incredible energy, such passion and focus for this play. It's been a true honor to work with him, really.
What's been the best part of the experience for you leading up to tonight?
I've discovered some new things about acting that this play has brought to my attention, and just learning to relax and being around Richard, who's an incredible actor, and Thea's a great director. You just learn that it's all about the story and serving the story with as much passion that you can, and I think I've opened some acting doors, I hope. So.
With one particular horse called Nugget, he embraces. The animal digs its sweaty brow into his cheek, and they stand in the dark for an hour, like a necking couple. And of all nonsensical things, I keep thinking about the horse, not the boy, the horse, and what it may be trying to do. I keep seeing this huge head kissing him with its chained mouth, nudging through the metal some desire absolutely irrelevant to filling its belly or propagating its own kind. What could that desire be? Not to stay a horse any longer? Not to remain reined up forever in those particular genetic strings? Is it possible, at certain moments, we cannot imagine, a horse can add its sufferings together, the non-stop jerks and jabs that are its daily life, and turn them into grief. What use is grief to a horse?
It's been great. I mean, being in New York, I described the moment today to somebody else. Today, I was wandering around New York for a couple of hours, and I finally got it. I got the mystique. I got why New York has this innate charisma that everyone talks about. And today, I was like, oh, this is New York. This is what it is about. And so that was great. So being in New York is fantastic. Work on Equus has been a joy. This company is just fantastic. Everybody in it, Anna, Lorenzo, Linny, Kate, T. So that's been wonderful. And obviously Richard. And working with Thea again. And just having a chance to revisit it and get it better than I did it in London was...
Let's talk about working with Peter Schaffer, the insight he gave to you in London and here.
Well, I mean, he's just a force, and he's got such an intellect, and he's such a lovely man that it's just a joy to have him in the rehearsal rooms and be able to change stuff with his blessing in the rehearsal rooms. Gives the whole company a sense of freedom, I think.
And what part during the process did you really grasp Alan when you said, I have him? Was it during rehearsals or in performance?
It was about a week ago, probably. I had a real moment of connection with him on stage, and I remember thinking about his horse obsession. I remember sort of almost looking at the audience and going, you must think I'm really odd. You know, it's that kind of, you must think this character's really weird, because to me he's not weird, he's just Alan. But then I just remember, oh, you must think I'm very bizarre. Yes.
Final question. New York audiences, there's nothing like them. What has it been like for you?
There is nothing like them. They don't miss a trick. They pick up on everything. They're glorious to perform to, frankly, and everybody who's out here should know how lucky they are to have the... I mean, London audiences were great, but these guys, my God, they listen to every single beat.
My turn.
What?
What's your first memory of a horse?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, the first time one entered your life in any way.
Broadway beat.
Norfolk, you're a fool.
You can't place a quarrel, you haven't the style.
No, hear me out. You and your class have given in, as you rightly call it, because the religion of our country means nothing to you, one way or the other.
That's a foolish saying for a start. The nobility of England has always
The nobility of England, my lord, would have snored through the Sermon on the Mount. But you'll labor like Thomas Aquinas over a rat dog's pedigree. What's the name of those distorted creatures you're all reading now?
An artificial quarrel's not a quarrel.
Don't deceive yourself, my lord. We've had a quarrel since the day we met. Our friendship was but sloth.
You can be cruel when you've a mind to be, but I've always known that.
And what's the name of those dogs? What are they called? Marsh, mastiffs, bog beagles?
Water spaniels.
And what would you do with a water spaniel that was afraid of water? You'd hang it. Well, as a spaniel is to water, so is a man to himself. I will not give in because I oppose it. I do. Not my pride, not my spleen, nor any other of my appetites, but I do.
I knew the play, but I have to be totally honest with you. After rereading it, I was blown away by how current it is and how powerful it is. And then we did a reading of it yesterday. It's just an incredible piece, and I think that we can. I hope we can do it without an intermission, and just do it 90 minutes, in your face, funny, bam, there it is. So that's going to be incredible, and it's so funny that it's kind of the backdrop is Hollywood, and we can do this play in the same time that it takes to make a blockbuster movie. And some of the things that my character is grappling with is art versus commerce, being true to himself and doing something in this life that represents his truth, or continuing to put food on the plate for himself and for all the people that he works for. And I think that we come across that moment in all of our lives. So it's a confrontation that my character gets to walk through, and it's why we act, is to do that, is to have that arc and to show it on stage, or totally fuck it up, which I hope is not the case.
Broadway beat.
Set against the backdrop of the French Revolution and based on the classic novel by Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities is a new musical by Jill Santoriello. She wrote the book, music, and lyrics. We've been following the journey of the show to Broadway's Al Hirschfeld Theater. Under the direction of Warren Carlyle, A Tale of Two Cities stars James Barber, Greg Edelman, Aaron Lazar, and Natalie Turo.
Tomorrow's morning can we see it, the world the way it ought to be. It won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long until tomorrow, until tomorrow, until tomorrow.
Sidney Carton. Charles Dickens wrote those famous lines. It's a far, far better thing I do than I've ever done. You know, those people, you remember the novel from high school. It's the best of times, the worst of times. Sidney Carton is an attorney, and he's lost his way, and he's a drunkard, and he finds himself through the course of the show. For those who remember the novel, there's an amazing twist at the end. For those of you who don't remember the novel, I'm not going to tell you. It's a great story. But it's a personal journey for this man, a struggle to find himself through other people. And it's a great parallel to life for me. When I think we are only complete as we are complete with our friends and family. And that to me is what this man is.
I'm playing Ernest Defarge, the husband of Madame Defarge, who kind of goes a little crazy, trying to seek revenge on the people who killed her family. And I think Ernest has also lost members of his family to the aristocrats, and he basically is saying to everybody around him, he's a leader, and he's basically saying, keep the lid on it until we have everything we need to make the revolution happen. And by the end of the first act, that's when we say enough is enough.
Up in the garret we can see a man who's surely done his time. 17 years in the Bastille, but no one here can name his crime. He was a doctor in the country, called away one winter night, called to an accident to try to save a life. But when he went to help, he vanished out of sight.
This experience has been amazing, working on Tale of Two Cities. It began about 2 years ago when the executive producers, Ron Sharp and Barbara Russell, sent me the script and said, what do you think? And I just had the most incredible reaction to it. The story is so beautiful. It's something that I read as a child. It's something as a choreographer I respond to because of the fluid nature of the story. It never stops. And as a director, I respond to the challenge of how to tell this story, how to tell a tiny little love story in an epic setting.
Talk about Jill's material. She wrote the book, music, and lyrics. Just sitting here today, my hair stood up. You have the most beautiful voices, but she's done a beautiful job with telling the story, hasn't she?
Yeah. Jill Santoriello has done the most incredible job condensing this huge story into an epic musical. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It touches me. Every day I work on it, I understand it more. And her marriage of those three disciplines are incredible: book, music, and lyrics. And there's something about that I also respond to as a director choreographer. We both take on a lot of this show. We carry the show. Between us, we carry the show.
And then over the years, I've rewritten a lot. I've rewritten a lot of the scenes, and I've rewritten a lot of the lyrics. Haven't rewritten as much of the music, but most of the music that I wrote, back then is in the show today, including the first song I ever wrote when I was 15 years old that I didn't even have in the show until about 4 or 5 years ago. It was always in my trunk, and I just pulled it out and said, I love this song. I want to find a way to put this song in the show. And it really worked out.
What's the song called, and where does it fit in?
It's called Everything Stays the Same, and it opens the second act. And it's a combination of the French revolutionaries after they've just stormed the Bastille, and they're They're basically observing the world that they're about to create. And we see the French Revolution go from good to bad to really bad during the course of the song, because I wanted to find a way to capture how this very idealistic, what began as a very idealistic, wonderful revolution about, having people having better lives and injustice being squashed, how it turned into something quite different, and unfortunately very violent and horrible.
We have so much, it isn't right to look at her. The world is new, another life that came from you. Dreams still come true each day.
I played Charles Darnay. I didn't know it too well. I read it sometime in high school, and that was kind of a good thing, because I like not having to sort of break any preconceived ideas and not have to follow anyone else's footsteps. So it was great. It was fun for me to sort of start from scratch.
Did you go back to the book when you started working on it, or was it all in Jill's script?
No, I went back to the book. I tried to sort of find whatever was in the book that I could use. There's only so much, at the end of the day, you got to play what's there. So I tried to take a couple things, and I think there's a little bit of the book. It's the book. It's so much of the Jill did such a great job putting so much of the book in our show. So it's really just getting these characters out there singing, and musicalizing all that emotion.
Well, I played Dr. Manette, who's the unfortunate doctor who's put in the Bastille for 17 years. He's a very damaged person. It's a very sad part of the story. And I reread the book before we went into rehearsal, so I knew it very well. I read it, I pored over it. And Dickens wrote such great descriptive passages that it was something that I could use as a great source material. And I used every bit. I would come in every day and say, hey, in the book it says, and they were like, well, okay, what does the book say today, Greg? But why deny it? It's there. You really should use it. So I did. And it was just wonderful to be able to have that, rather than just creating on your own and guessing, and so it was a wonderful process, actually. It wasn't hard.
Oh, it's an honor, really. I mean, it's a very small bit, but I think that that the character really contributes to the overarching themes and bringing out truths inherent in the novel, and really kind of opening Sydney up and revealing more about him in the end. So yeah, it's an honor.
And talk about the audience's reaction to the show. The audiences are loving this.
They are. I mean, every night we're leaving the stage door, and there are people out there saying they love the show and it was really moving, and they were bawling at the end, and that they want to come back. So I've been really touched by some of their responses, so we'll see. Yeah.
Dickens writes beautiful characters, and I'm lucky to play Lucy Manette in this show. She's kind of the heart and soul of the show. She's what Dickens describes as the golden thread, and she kind of sews all of these people together. And of course, the French Revolution ensues, and then things fall apart. But she's kind of the center of this love triangle between Sydney and Lucy and Charles.
I feel amazing. I feel overwhelmed. I've never really experienced a Broadway opening before. So the audience was so overwhelming during the applause. I almost fell off my feet. It was really wild. I mean, I would have made a complete, fool out of myself falling on the ground during my curtain call, but it was just amazing. It's an amazing response. This story and this musical has meant so much to me for so long that I almost feel like it's really not happening. Like, wake me up, pinch me, Well,
take me back to the beginning. When did you start with the project?
I started, actually, I did the original recording years ago, and I actually said to Barbara Russell, the producer, I was singing the music, and I said, who is this character? What is this woman about? I mean, I didn't read the book or anything. And she goes, I'm really interested in you coming in for this. And this was years later, and I finally, during the workshop, I believe it was around 3.5 years ago, that I started with the project fully.
Talk about, she was so scary in the book for me in 9th grade when I read this, Madame Defarge. You give a very human touch to her, though. Talk about what it's like playing her and what you love about this character. Talk about her.
Well, I feel that we really needed to humanize her a little bit because she's so evil in the book. To play her so evil on stage the whole time, I think would get kind of boring. So I really wanted to give her some roundedness and on a journey, so then the audience can actually see when exactly she cracks. It's like, oh my God, that's why. Oh, that's why. Oh, now she's really jumped off the bridge. So I really wanted the audience to kind of like her a little bit, as opposed to,
Tomorrow's dawning, can you see it? The world the way it ought to be.